All right, we're live. Excellent. So this week we're joined by Luke and Moja. While we let everyone kind of come to the room. For the people in replay, you guys. So this week we're joined by Luke and Moja. Volume.
Yes, volume.
Yeah, that's better. So, do you guys want to just quickly introduce yourself for those catching this on the replay?
Luke, you go.
Well, I was waiting for you, Moja. How about we introduce each other?
So polite.
That just to, like, really sort of
Yeah,
mix
that's
it
good.
up.
That's good.
Okay. So this is Moja Reeves. He's like a badass e-skate rider and the nemesis of electric skateboards everywhere. Because as I quote from him, I've broken every board I've ever ridden. So lovely fella, just don't ever lend him your board.
Good. And this is Luke Pepper. Highly renowned DJ, once headlined Ibiza, many of you may not know. Extremely intelligent fella, can 3D print anything, can build anything. Background in IT industry, film industry, skate industry, jack of all trades, and yeah, recently we've been DJing a lot together, which has been really fun.
Awesome.
Nice indeed.
So, have you actually broken every board that you tested, Moja? Have you broken the P1 at some point, the Streetwing?
That's a good question. I don't think I've broken a motor. I remember the Trapper Rider broke a motor. Managed to.
That's yep.
So, yes.
Actually, yeah, and yeah. However, that doesn't count because that was a prototype issue. I basically on that prototype, I'd cut the wires too short going to the motor, and soldered them, which isn't on the production versions, so it wouldn't have normally happened. So you kind of broke it, yeah, but kind of it shouldn't. It wouldn't normally have happened. But that's my fault for being lazy. I should have.
Testing, yeah.
Yeah, well, prototypes, right? But yeah, I should have just again another lesson learned. Never solder phase leads. Just rerun the cable. It's not like I'm short of 12 AWG.
Well, that's what prototypes are for, to test your technology.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm a prototype tester, so I'm like, yeah, one of those like treadmills you put a board on to test it, but the human version. So, yeah, you give me any board and I'll show you what's going to work and what's not.
I got a question for Luke, but also for Moja. So Moja introduced you with loads of different accolades: DJ, 3D printer, filmmaker, jack of all trades. He said. How did you do the transition between all those lives behind your back, behind your past, and got into e-skating?
It's like all addictions, they sneak up on you. The thing with e-skating was I kind of did what everyone did. Saw a particular YouTuber who'll remain nameless, and kind of went, "Wow, that looks a bit
it's
good."
Okay, mate. You can mention his name.
Was that
I'm sure he's watching anyway.
Yeah, that's Casey. and then
years before him.
Well, okay, yeah, but I just wasn't watching you then. And then Carlos, who a lot of you guys know, the badass drone pilot. He lurks around my neighborhood a lot. I mean, in fact, it's safe to say my neighborhood is like fairly infested with Carlos's. And he had a board. He let me have a go on it, and that was it. I was hooked, and did the usual thing of like, well, I'll buy one, and then I was like, well, if I buy one, that means I won't be making one. Made one, and just became completely addicted, like everyone else here, I guess.
What was the board that you tested? At the time?
I think it was one of the original Meepos. It was one of the ones with the handle in it. Yeah.
Oh. Nice, and you got addicted with a Meepo. Props to Meepo.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the first real go I had on it, because I never ridden skateboards when I was a kid, so I didn't want to break his. So just kind of went up and down the road, gave it back to him, and then the first time I ever really went on one was one that I built, which was a single motor 6374.
Yeah. Sweet. I mean, I'm with you on that one. I never skateboarded as a kid, so it was quite a different experience from, as I'd say, people like Moja who've probably been skating all your lives. And judging from your talent, you've probably been skating. You were born with a skateboard when you were a baby, no? When did you start skateboarding,
Um,
Moja?
I started skateboarding when I moved to Laverick Grove when I was 10 years old. I moved into Trellick Tower, which is on Portobello Road, and it's got a skate bowl underneath called Meanwhile Gardens. You've also got Bay 66, which is the biggest indoor park in London, or the only. And then you've got Royal Oak as well. So you've got some of the best skateboarding in the area. And we used to have demos with Tony Hawk, and some of the best skaters would come down. So
Tony
we
Hawk
had a
was
real
there.
skate scene.
Jesus.
Yeah. He's been to our skate park before. Yeah, some
Ah.
classics were there. So I love like real skateboarding, like that, like 90s culture, that 2000s culture, shooting with like old VX1000 cameras with fisheye lenses, and like that is far distant from e-skate, but e-skate is like for me a great way to progress, like as I get older and I want to incorporate like electronics and more knowledge
Yeah.
into that same sport. I was skating, I think, until I moved to Australia when I was 18. Then I started picking up e-skate, and that was that was before boosted boards, when there was only Alien Drive Systems around, and there was fixed skateboards, and I started doing some work with them. So
You had a fic.
that
You had
I
a
used to do
well,
some marketing videos for them. So I had the Big Daddy, and I had
yeah,
one of
monster
each of
board.
their smaller models,
Uh-huh.
the monster board. Before that, I had like my first board was a Neptune, and it was like 45 inches long, and it had like a 600 watt brushless motor, but it was massive, and I had those hobby batteries in it, and this thing was like 26 kilos, but it's brilliant.
Which year was this?
2011.
2011. Bloody hell, you've been in the game for
Yeah.
a while. I thought I was
Yeah,
in this
love
game.
it. Yeah, and then I just started breaking all the parts, and I'm like, please, someone come up with something that I can like get to the city without a motor falling off the board on. And I'm like searching, and that's just the time that Jason was designing stuff, and he was designing motor mounts and working on motor controllers. So me and Jason started making friends, and then we were like pushing things, and then I pretty much just like hop around to whoever's got the latest, greatest stuff, and just try and push it like that.
Just basically a
So
gear
then,
slot.
Yeah,
yes,
gear slot.
just try the next board. That's his game.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because one of the rides that I did with you out in London, I remember you going to a skate park and just acing the ball. It's just, wow, this guy can do this with an electric skateboard. It's inspiring for many people. I mean, and your videos as well, the way that you position around the board. I remember you doing a video about the Evolve skate karting event, and I just remember you seeing how you position your feet, going left and going right, and moving your feet about the board. And that's probably what made you win the competition in Paris, I guess, because there was a lot of tough competition in there. Tell us a bit about your experience in Paris, and that's the same question for Luke afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, the Paris event was really exciting, and like naturally I'm quite competitive, and I've been in skate competitions before, and thought like this is a chance to go hard on the technology and see if I can beat everyone in the riding. And working with Luke, like having such a good board for it, thought we could do it. And it was strange because at the time I didn't own an all-terrain board, and so Aaron was practicing to race that board in the street race, and I hadn't had any time to practice it, so it was like, I'm just going to give this my best shot. I don't own this board, and have never really ridden this board properly, so I just like, I had so much adrenaline going, and I was so ready for it, and I grew up riding bowls, so you're constantly turning,
Yeah.
and that's where I live, is, you know, in a bowl where you got banked corners. So any of these
Yeah,
competitions are exactly what I mean. We're doing that for like 18 years, and that's like you're always riding on the edge of traction with very, very little traction to work with. So it just sort of worked in my favor that that's the perfect discipline for me.
So you guys didn't really practice
Yeah.
together, or before the event you guys
We
didn't really practice?
talked a lot. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we worked, like I left all the mechanics and all the electronics in Luke's hands, and it was really nice to work as a team like that, just to be like, I'll go to the skate park day on and just practice my riding. He's at his place working on the board, and the board was perfect, and my riding worked out to be like perfect enough to win that. So that was a nice way to work. A lot of the time, like, I've got my DIY board where I'll build absolutely everything on it, and that's like, I guess that's different. It's
Yeah,
like
I've seen that, baby.
racing division. That's quite cool. It's like Formula One style. I really enjoyed that. What do you think? Luke? What was it like for you?
What? How was it for you, baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paris was awesome on all sorts of level. The racing was like amazing. I mean, obviously day 2 was much better. Day 1, the board I don't think was quite set up for the way that Aaron was riding, especially with such a tight course. Day 2 was great, but I think it's almost as good as the racing was. That was not even the highlight for me. The highlight was just kind of meeting the community and just having such a really chilled out, lovely vibe. And you know, it's so rare that you get so many strangers from all over the world, and you know, nobody's moody. You know, and nobody's
that was
like everyone's super friendly, super nice, super honest.
That was the highlight for me.
Yeah, I was like hearing people, oh, like I left my phone over there 6 hours ago. They come back and someone's put a napkin over it, type thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, like to have all the key players in the e-skate industry at the pub together, getting pissed and laughing and getting shut down by the police. I mean, that's pretty hilarious type of events.
That's pretty cool.
Need more of that.
Central Road in what was it? Can't remember the name of the town now. Well, whatever.
Can't remember.
So what
I
was
just remember.
Vexu was, yeah. No, I remember. What was inside the P1? What are the main components in there, Luke?
P1, the one the Moja was racing was running OG Fock boxes, which I still love. I still think they're an amazing bit of technology. Obviously, you can't get them anymore. Got 10S 5P pack in there, so fairly big pack. 6374 motors, and yeah, I mean, obviously, well, the production version, I mean, customers can ask for the trigger if they want. Production version comes with the remote, thumb remote, which is good with the pack level on it as well. But we use the thumb remote, the mini trigger for racing, because it's just, you've got a better granularity on it for racing.
Good stuff. So, are there any evolutions?
No dropouts ever on that remote. That's the other big thing.
That's very important because we see so many horror stories around. Is there any evolution in the wings for Streetwing? You mentioned the Fock box that you cannot get hold of right now. So, what's in the plans?
Well, I've been working on quite a few things. It's the whole COVID-19 thing has just completely shattered, I think, everyone's plans at the moment. Certainly put Streetwing's plans on ice for a little bit because of investors, because of China, you know, physically not being able to get out to Shenzhen to do stuff at the moment. So it's kind of adopting a wait and see. But I've been using that time to innovate. Got a few little things up my sleeve. Nothing I want to completely release yet. You know what I'm like. I like to overtest stuff before. Well, yeah. It's ESC things. I mean, ESC's been the biggest problem at the moment for Streetwing. On every level for parts, for everyone. And it's been one thing after another. I mean, after the whole Neo fiasco, I mean, Jesus Christ, anyone who's been following that, it's
crazy.
nuts.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's more than a few people.
Yeah,
There's more than a few retailers and manufacturers that were like getting quite heavily involved with Jeff Wu. I mean, I spoke with him and he tried to line me up for 1,000 ESC units paid up front. Before then, I was suspicious. After that, let's just to say I was pretty much confident of what was happening. But the Stormcore, I am very, very much looking forward to seeing.
Me too.
Ricardo's been taken by the Daleks. If they tell us their ransom demands.
Sorry, guys.
Question from the chat while we're recording.
Yeah, I was just about to jump into the Lacroix story because of Stormcore. So Moja, you are now collaborating more directly with Lacroix. What's the story about then?
I want to be competitive in the next races, so I'm trying to stay on top of what's going to be the quickest at the moment. So, yeah, I really like what Lacroix have got to offer, so I'm going to work with them for a little bit. Still riding Streetwing parts on my DIY board, which I really love.
Yeah. Show us.
You want to see?
Yeah. Let's see that baby. And he's gone shopping. He's gone for milk.
Yeah, it's just in the it's in the checkout aisle.
Jesus.
Beast.
So
it's really quick off the line.
So you got Streetwing motors. You got what kind of
lazy rolling wheels.
Okay.
I can't remember who makes these motor mounts, but the DIY ones are great. With idlers on them.
Okay.
And then I've got some Raptor parts running 2 Fock boxes. And the Lanyard's deck. I don't know if you can see the shape of this deck.
Yeah. It's how long is it? Is it 40 inches or something?
42 inches with the drop.
42, yeah. Okay.
You can see the drop for your feet.
That's sweet looking neck.
It's such a good position.
Nice.
I just really want to get lower and lower to the ground. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, I was just I saw the Streetwing motors on it. So you're not just a one-trick pony with a P1. You sell parts, and I mean you have a shop, and I'm sure that Tim will be able to put it on the ticket underneath. You sell loads of different parts, and tell me about the process. Have you had many people? I don't know. Just reaching out for advice, or just okay, I want to build something, or I need this part, or because I remember going to you like a year ago or 2 years ago, asking for advice and for help, and you kindly welcomed me in your beautiful home. So tell me a bit more about your shop.
Yeah, well, Streetwing is set up to meet a demand for EU, UK customers. It's all about customer service. As you know, you said, I'm always happy to help people out and also stand by what we're doing. But it's also it's kind of like it's an open secret that Streetwing is also part of the R&D process for our boards. Now, early on with Streetwing, I found out with a batch, one particular batch of motors that you can test, maybe 4, 5 or 6 motors yourself, but that's about it. And there's only so many miles that you can put on them. But once you've got, hundreds and thousands of any of the products out there, you know exactly what the failure rate is. And I had the initial motors that I sold at Streetwing, the very first model, tested beautifully. The first, I think, 2 or 3 batches were amazing, and then the failure rate went up to about 50 or 60%. And so obviously I had to stop selling them. I mean,
you can't survive on that.
yeah. Well, no, there was a great margin on them, but obviously I'm the one replacing them all. And, you know, if you've ever done business with China, they, you know, if you got broken motors, you can forget about it, because even getting delivery to their offices is next to impossible. You know, so, and, you know, I sort of make no secret of that. And I make sure that the quality is very, very high, because obviously it's coming out of my pocket. So, you know, I don't want to be selling bad parts, and also it annoys customers. So that's kind of been the ethos. And it also means that, you know, with the P1s and other boards that we're releasing out there, that I'm very, very confident that they won't break, and we can keep the customer service high, and we can keep people very happy with the product, because having done the repairs for Inertian for quite some time, I kind of got a real insight into how expensive and how bad it is for customer relationships to have boards that break a lot.
Inertian, yeah. Well, so you're talking about collaborations. Did you ever do any other collaborations within the UK? I mean, I remember that there was Week in the past, and they sadly folded. Was there ever a collaboration in the wings in there, or with other brands in the UK?
No, not at the moment. I'm always happy to work with everyone. I think the more that everyone works together, the stronger we're going to be, both individually, but also as a community and also as a sport. I was speaking with Damon, and I'm going to reach out to a few other guys as well, to kind of take that to some next levels, because I think there's some ways that some of the respected retailers and Eastgate builders out there can help each other out in ways that will do nothing but sort of raise everyone's boat with the rising tide.
Yeah, there seems to be a tide now of starting to collaborate, some possibly post Inertian with the Relict and now Apex boards in the UK. Certainly Ben also does beautiful enclosures. There's a lot of people out there that want to do something about this, and it's beautiful to see. Another board, and this is for you, Moja, that I've followed closely is SRB, the Stooge boards, the 3-link ones. I'm not sure if you ever seen them, but you were mentioning earlier on that you want to be as close to the ground as possible, and the links that they have on their trucks are bloody amazing, because the board is just so low, and so it looks in the videos, it looks incredibly stable, and those things are fast. Have you seen them? Do you have any thoughts you want to share on them?
Are you talking about the trucks on the Lacroix board?
No. I'm thinking about the Stooge boards. I'm not sure if you have Stooge racing boards.
Yeah. I look at his stuff very, very closely. I think that's really interesting what he's done. I've seen his latest video with the new deck he's made, and I think we're thinking on the same wavelength a lot, because he's gone for that 43 inches, I think, and he's talking about having a platform to rest your foot on the back. It all makes complete sense. I was on the Olympic track yesterday with the Lacroix, and I was tightening up the trucks and getting downhill posture.
How did you get in? You just sneaked in.
Well, it's closed. There was kids all over it. You know, I was having to dodge people on Boris bikes and all that.
Hey, we got breaking and entering and kids here already. Jesus Christ! Are you sure you don't need a lawyer for it?
Well then, Moja, let's edit out. Let's edit this.
Anyway, back to the board. I think that design is really interesting. Like I look forward to racing against him one day. I don't know how much better it will be than what Lacroix have got to offer. So because I haven't tried it.
So one of the things that's quite interesting is that Lacroix rides. I'm assuming it rides quite differently to Streetwing or Evolve or other mainstream boards, because the trucks are different. Yeah. So how easy was it to adapt to that? And are you advising them to change anything coming up with things? Is there any close and development?
Can you repeat that question? That broke up a bit.
I think Ricardo's broken up. We've got a community.
Sorry, am I breaking up? So
I think you were talking about
Okay,
what's
Billy
the
has a
difference
question.
between an Evolve, a Streetwing, and a LaCroix.
yeah, trying to write different points of how did you adapt, and whether there's anything that you change to the way it writes, if there's any developments from the hardware kind of side that you're advising on.
Well, I think like Evolve is like a really fun board, and I like riding an Evolve board at slow speed. You know, if we're riding through the city on an iBike London ride, you get a lot of fun at very slow speed with people. And then the Streetwing is like, it's very much like the Evolve, but you don't have the double kingpin trucks, but you have a lot more power. So you have a lot of people who ride an Evolve, they think about having bigger motors, more amps, a better battery, and maybe not having double kingpin trucks. So it's an amazing option to go into. And then LaCroix sort of offering you a different technology on the trucks, going into mountain board trucks, because the Streetwing is using skateboard trucks, and there's something very like organic about that, and something original about skating on skateboard trucks. You're still on a longboard essentially, and then the LaCroix is a mountain board that's, you know, got the slick wheels, so it's kind of its own breed, the LaCroix. I think when you step on the LaCroix, you feel like you're getting on a motorbike, and it's something a little different to jumping on an Evolve. That's a very different feeling. You know, I wear full pads now, and it's like you get on that thing, and it's like you take it quite seriously. What I really want to see is, to be honest, is four-wheel drive. You know, when you're driving a car, you know, you have disc brakes on the front that are twice as big as the rear brakes, because you use the front brakes a lot more. And when I'm riding my bike, I'm always using my front brakes, and it's like e-skate has somehow gone so far without any front brakes, and I just feel like it's something we sort of missed out. Like, and it's like, I know it's so much more expensive to put another drivetrain on the front, but I don't skate nearly as like when I go out on my e-bike, which goes up to 40-50 miles an hour, like I wouldn't dare do any of that without front brakes. When I ride with boards, you know, I'm going easy around the corners because I know I can't slow down, and it's like when you brake and the weight shifts forward, so much of it ends up on the front. So I'd like to see people implementing that. Bio boards have that, but they didn't. You know, I haven't seen a lot of that out, and so I'd like to see that more.
Wouldn't that decrease the maneuverability though? Because on a Streetwing, you can carve really tightly, and on LaCroix maybe it's a bit harder already. So with a 4WD setup, wouldn't that impact the maneuverability of the board? I know that you probably increase the speed and the torque.
I think the maneuverability is mainly determined by the geometry of the setup. The weight, the only thing more drivetrain is going to put on is more weight, and weight doesn't really make that much difference when you're traveling at high speed. It is important. It is important, but it doesn't affect as much of how much you can turn. It even helps you put down more traction. So you could have you can have four-wheel drive Evolves. They're going to turn as well as a two-wheel drive Evolve. That's what I mean.
Okay. That's a good point.
And you're going to have a bit more maneuverability because you can come out the corners in a whole different way. So, you know, something would be. Someone's put a question there. Just answer that. What's the highest speed I've reached on a board? I think the highest I've reached is about 40-45 miles an hour.
Bloody hell. Where was this?
I'd really like to go a lot quicker. In Australia on the Raptor 2, riding down hills with the Tesseract deck, with this deck here, because it's like that proper downhill style board. You feel really comfortable on this at speed.
Just went to the shop and got one of those. I know it's not a shop
Yeah,
anymore.
one.
It's a,
They,
it's
they,
a
they
factory.
sell them at 7-Eleven.
Look, there's a question from Billy. Will you have a go on mountain board direction for a Streetwing? Is that something that appeals to you, or is it too crowded, or you don't? What's your feelings on it?
Yeah, I'd never say never. I haven't got any plans just at the moment, but once the range becomes a little bit more mature, we'll be looking to kind of cover all bases, I guess. So it's looking for opportunities to innovate. That's well, it's the most tricky and time-consuming part, obviously. But yeah, give it sort of 6 months a year. I'll probably be thinking along those lines, no doubt. And we'll see what's out there and what can be improved on it.
So, Moja was talking about four-wheel drive. Is there a four-wheel drive coming from Streetwing?
There will be a four-wheel
Have you
drive coming
tested?
from Streetwing. Yes,
You heard it here
obviously
first.
the interesting thing with four-wheel drive is obviously you need a really big battery pack. And yeah, I'm about to let too many rabbits out of too many hats here, I think. So
So that's quality.
yeah, what I would possibly like to comment, sir.
Nice one, nice one. I'm taking all the rabbits out of the heads. Well. Anyway, so you're mentioning four-wheel drive. Is there going to be maybe a city board, a city dwelling board, maybe a mini board kind of thing?
Well, in a word, yes, that's considerably further along the development path. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we've got to overcome is being able to get decent boards on planes, and I think I may have solved that conundrum. Obviously, it's no good having solved it as long as it again, with everything, it's about testing, and I'm testing the crap out of the solution that we've got. Well, I mean, the thing that really I was in Australia January this year, and it killed me because I couldn't take my board with me, and it was just perfect weather, just empty streets. The tarmac was just perfect, and I'm just sitting there with no board and no way of riding. So the frustration kind of kicked me up the bum. To come up with a modular battery solution, which I think is the way forward. So,
is this something like the Yonan or something more like what Evolve has at the moment, or is it easier to just swap it out?
Well, the prototype that I got at the moment is AS4P. So you got a decent amount of range. It's never going to be the quickest board in the world, but then I don't think you necessarily want it to be on a short deck cruiser around town. You want something light, you want something small, you want something you can take on the tube, and you want something that can fit in your checked-in luggage. Because I mean that's the vision that I've got is you check in the board without any battery packs on it whatsoever. You've got a series of modules that you take hand luggage with you, and then once you get to the other end, put it all together and skate off into the sunset.
Are you going to get Moja to test it and destroy it?
Yeah. I think that definitely needs to be done now. Like I'm abusing it a little bit more before I sort of really commit war crimes.
If I can kickflip it, it's fine.
Kickflip the board. So what's your dream range of boards from Streetwing? So you have already the P1, and then you're talking about the city boards, the swappable battery board. Is it swappable? I don't know.
No, well, I mean, yeah, it is swappable, but not in the traditional sense because you've got enough range that you don't need to. I just see it as that's just like a kind of another hassle and another failure point as well. As catches, etc. Then like you said, we've got some other stuff coming out.
So what would be your ideal range of boards?
Well, I think obviously the P1's the flagship. We've got the commuter in the pipeline at the moment. past that, to be honest, I've been so busy trying to get these things done and sort of looking after the customers and everything else. I haven't really thought much further than that. I mean, obviously, something like a hoverboard would be great. You know, once we fix that anti-grav generator, I'll be all over that.
Oh, beautiful. So one for Moja. So Luke was mentioning a few minutes ago going to Shenzhen and whatnot. Have you ever had the opportunity to go to China and see the factories and I don't know if you're curious about it, even the production side of it. Is it something that you'd like to see at some point, or have you ever experienced that, or what's your feeling about
As in me getting involved in production, or what it's like?
No, it's just we see a lot of stories of. I'm remembering now another UK brand that has a lot of stuff coming from China, and they've had their problems in the past with Chinese stuff, and obviously all the other brands they have parts coming from China. Is that something that interests you, or you're just done for the writing and the hardware is for the experts?
Yeah, having gone out to China and been a part of the process of setting up a production line, visiting the battery factory, the motor factory, and working with the people and to get everything produced. I mean, it's not ideal out there. There's a big breakdown in communication between Western and Chinese because the culture is so different. So a lot that gets said when you're out there doesn't get put into action, and then when mistakes happen, accountability is really difficult because everyone blames each other. So Fick sent, well, like there's two brothers that run Fick skateboards, and one of them actually moved out to China. And I think if you really want to produce properly in China, it's a great idea to actually go and live out there, or have someone within the team who lives there, who speaks Chinese and who can really work that, because
otherwise you're going to get
it seems like a headache, you know, the whole process, and it's not something that I personally want to bring into my life. I'm happy to like facilitate and help other people in ways that I can, which is more media related and skating, but you can certainly do it. It's just I guess you don't want to fall into like the pool of all the other Westerners who want to go out and make a bang product that's going to make them millions. It's like you really need things to work. Like the e-skates are just high tech vehicles with incredible amounts of current and high specification for such a small thing. So it's not something you can go and try and build like you'd go and get a power bank built. Like this is, you really need people who are focused on it. So I am not surprised that I've broken almost every component on every board I've bloody ever had, because it's like,
guys, if you want to test your boards, it's
not easy stuff. Yeah. I mean, when you break stuff, it's like, oh right, like, and then when I'm building things, I'm like, shit, like this has taken me years to like work out the right technique to make this battery pack so that I can skate it right and it not break. And you think, was the guy in the production line in China trained to that level? It's like, how do you get a team of people in a production line that have that level of understanding? It's like that's high end information, you know. People need to be highly educated for that, and then that costs money. Like, so you can't expect to go out and get things produced really cheaply in China. You want to pay the same amount of money for highly educated people, I guess.
Yeah. So at the moment, LaCroix, are they building everything in Canada, or how does that work? Do you have any details?
I don't have any details on that.
Okay.
The parts are
I think you were saying that's
really impressive. You know, the aluminium trucks, they're really well made. Really like the carbon fiber enclosure. I'm not involved in that side of things. I'm more in the video production and the riding. So
yeah. So look, talking a bit about your experience in China, because that's something that for me fascinates me, and probably for our viewers as well. How did you start? How did you build your contacts? Why did you choose a supplier instead of the other? Tell me about your travels as well. What's it been like? What's the adventure like?
Well, I've been doing business with China for a very, very long time. I've been involved in the club industry, and I've got a sound system company as well. So we've been working over there for a long time. I've also built a fair amount of nightclubs out in all over China, and
Oh wow.
built up a it's great. We've built up a really good contact base there. We've got some very very good contacts with China. The more contacts and the higher up they are in the government, the better your life is generally. And we've worked on that quite hard. So we're quite well placed in that. The other thing is got a business with import export licenses, premises over in China, Chinese speaking staff, all of the rest of it. So very well placed. But exactly as Moja pointed out, there's not I can't train anyone, and it's not something I can do over a Zoom call or a Skype call. It's one of those things where you're going to have to be there, and you're going to have to take people out there as well, unless you're willing to be there full time. And at the moment, I'm probably not going to be out there full time. Although once production ramps up there, it'll be hoping 3 months it will probably turn into 6, right? Because these things always do. Then once I've got it in a situation, you've got the staff in place who can look after the QC, both from incoming parts, outgoing parts, and be able to help. Because I mean, this is another issue that you've got with ramping up a production line. If something's wrong and you've got to remachine or refinish anything, that'll just completely kill the production, unless you've got someone out there who can do it. So what I need, so I know if I've got an issue and there's 50 or 100 parts and they're a couple of mil out, or they need filing down or whatever, I'll do it. I'll sit in the corner there and file for a good few days, get things up and running, get that production line working. But that's not something you can expect of someone who's on minimum wage in a production line. It's so far out of their skill set. It's never going to work. And even if you got with the best will in the world, it's just going to go wrong. So you've got to go over there and babysit it. So that's kind of the plan. But obviously with COVID-19 and everything else, I mean, guessing is pointless at the moment. You're just going to have to see what shakes out and see where things are in a few months.
Yeah. So in terms of technology and going forward, I was in my mind when I was listening to you, I bought a few months back an Lofty direct drive, and one of the issues that seems to be appearing is that the axle is actually like a couple of mils too thick. So I'm probably, when I assemble those, I'll probably get my file up as well. But talking about direct drives, is that something that you want to explore, or is it not mature enough? Because I mean, a few years back we had, was it a Carve or whatever it was, and then now we had torque boards and Lofty and whatnot. Is that something that is going to explode in the future? Well, what are your feelings on that?
Potentially, yeah. I love new tech. I can't wait to get Streetwing in a position where we've got the size and the resources to be able to really innovate new technologies like that. I'm also very, very wary of not biting off more than I can chew. Innovating products like that is no joke. It really isn't. And people, I think, well, we've seen it time and time again, they completely underestimate the commitment that it's going to take, the money, the time, etc. And so, and the other thing is, you need to get it right before you start taking people's money. So that's
a lot of people take people's money and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah, which is obviously not the way to do it at all. So, yeah, absolutely. I think direct drive over hubs is my kind of gut feeling, and will probably be more successful. Although you do have the issue that you can't change the gearing on there, which is always a thing. But there's ways around that.
I mean, I'd love to throw in there, I wish one day I could have a 3-speed gearbox on my skateboard, and if anyone out there can make one for me, I'd be very, very happy.
We were talking about it in the chat the other day, one of these WhatsApp groups, But I'm guessing the complexity, and this is probably a question for you, Luke, the complexity of it and the weight as well. With an idea like that, unless there's something really simple out there that.
I'm looking for an engineer who knows way more about physics and gearing and has had that experience. So, like, if there's anyone out there who wants to work with us, then please come and we'll chat.
I mean, as you can see, I've been working on one in my workshop right here, but
yeah, the last bloke that I visited with a workshop like that ended up marrying a pigeon.
Yeah.
Tim, I've been speaking a lot. I'm not sure whether you have any specific questions. Maybe you want to take the stage, Tim.
A couple from chat. I'd like to just go back to. There was one. Where is it? Asking, how does LaCroix handle some proper off-roading?
Very, very well. The flex in the board sort of allowing me to go over some really tough terrain. I rode the Olympic BMX track yesterday.
Is that the one that's inside the tarmac?
Yeah. And that's got some steep bumps.
Yeah, that's
so if that's not a test, I don't know what is, and I got around that. I did bottom out a few times, but
I was about to ask
I think the technique is you go faster and the front comes off the end, and then
Is this one of the videos that you'll be bringing out? Because I know you were filming there the other day. Are we going to see some of this?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely in the next few days. I've got some really cool footage I can't wait to show, and I've got the telemetry statistics, so my speed and the maps.
If you don't check out Moja,
overlay them,
Yeah.
So,
there was a couple.
Just a quick question on that one, Moja. You're saying that it bottomed out. How's the battery case holding on, or is it one of those things that you're going to destroy?
It seems really thick. You know, put quite a few scratches on the bottom, but they're not. Well, they're just scratches. They're not getting in there.
Yeah.
You know, like a Tesla, you've got the battery right on the bottom of the car, so you're getting the center of gravity really low. With a LaCroix as opposed to a Tramper where you got the battery up top, I've got the weight down there. So if it's only an issue when I'm on an Olympic cycle track, then that's fine for me. Every now and then, you know, I'll hit on something, but it hasn't got in my way really. And I like having the flex and being able to put my feet anywhere on the board. I really like riding without bindings, partly because of the safety thing and just the freedom of being able to move your feet around the board. I think it's really nice. That's why I was riding with Streetwing, so I'm sort of in the non-binding tribe.
Going back to Streetwing, Andy put a question in there about assembling it in the UK or building it in the UK instead of relying on China. Would that be something that you would welcome, or is it too expensive, or we don't have the know-how in here? Or
well, that's what we're doing at the moment, and it's incredibly expensive. If even before you factor in the wages, the killer things are shipping, import duty, and taxes. Doing anything in Europe, and the amount of money that just the import duties and the shipping, once you have to get it from multiple places, not to mention the environmental impact that it has as well. Because if you think about it, like if you're shipping all of these parts from different places on different places to somewhere and then shipping them out again, it makes no sense when they've got to travel, you know, probably a couple of miles down the road from one factory in Shenzhen to the other, assemble it there. And the thing is, the thing about China is you can get quality stuff made out there. Apple manage it. There's a whole load of people who do, but it basically comes down to commitment and money. If you've got the money, they'll take you very, very seriously. I mean, you can go to the same factory and, you know, they'll treat me one way and then they'll treat Apple a completely different way. And that's because at the moment, like nobody's sending their kids to college on what Streetwing's sending at any one factory at the moment. So that's basically where it's at. So we got to do things a little bit differently. than the big guys at the moment, but we want the same level of quality.
Mhm. So you'll build
Your
it up
video went,
slowly
Luke.
and surely.
Yeah.
And we
Video's
lost
back.
he's there, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Ricardo?
No, you're building it up slowly and surely so that you can actually build a good base of customers and build your products from there. I guess that's the right strategy, and that's something that people seem to forget in the e-skate world. They just want to sell, and then we'll take care of the problems later, I guess.
Of course,
So
it's very frustrating because you want to get products to market, you want to grow the business, you want to do this, you want to do that, but you know, as we've all seen from many cautionary tales over the last sort of few years in e-skate especially, that isn't necessarily the way to do it unless you're sort of all about losing a huge amount of money and making everyone hate you.
Talking about loving the person that's behind the camera, Luke and Moja. So Moja, you're presumably being brought in to Lacroix to one, give your ideas about improving the board, two, promoting it. Are you guys thinking about making any events around, any demos? Because I remember that you did quite an extensive demo tour with Inertion. Is that something that's in the plans?
Yeah, me and Alex started talking, I guess, just before lockdown, and I went and got the Lone Star the week before lockdown and had to do some work on it to get it working. And back then, yeah, I'd pitched a whole tour around Europe, and there was a lot in the pipeline. And as lockdown happened, we sort of rested those ideas for a bit, and now things seem to be really coming back to life in the e-skate scene. Yeah, it's time.
I love
to
your
start
cat.
doing those
Sorry,
events.
Luke.
It's not a cat, that's a
Cat.
tentacle.
That's a tentacle.
I'm being fully attacked here, guys. This is no joke.
Sorry, Moja, I interrupted you.
Yeah, there will be some demo events, and I've already created 2 videos or 3 videos for Lacroix, so those will be coming out shortly, which I'm sure people will like to see. So I think Tim might be doing some work with Lacroix as well. So I'm going to run. I've started to run a few events in. I've started to run a few events in Epping Forest, and it's an amazing place to ride. So going to run a few more up there. Luke came to one. It's one of the best places I've ever ridden an e-skate because you've got this huge range of really soft tarmac roads, so just perfectly smooth, and they go off in all sorts of different directions down the hills, and then you've got all these gravel tracks, and then you've got mountain bike trails and nice pubs to charge up at. So yeah, this summer I'm going to create a few events there, and I think there's about 5 Lacroix riders in my area, so yeah, we're going to start getting together.
I see a growing amount of Lacroix riders
happening in the city as well. Looking forward to that.
There is. I'm seeing a bit. Go on, Tim.
How are you finding the Lacroix where you don't have to stop and charge so much? I was going to say, how much is that affecting your kind of style of riding? You heading out for sort of those longer rides now?
Yeah, it is nice to like go out for a skate, and because I live 5 minutes from Epping Forest, like when I go out for a ride, I go out for a proper ride. Like I'll really hammer it and not hold back on the throttle, and do a lot of runs, and then take a break and take a few runs. Like when I go out on my DIY board, which has got some like 16 miles of range on it, I get there, I can have 2 runs, and I've got to make my way back.
Yeah.
And comparing that to skateboarding is like a proper session's a few hours, so you really want to, like, it takes a while to warm up, and then you get into it, and then you can start to skate. So it is actually way more than I'd probably use in a day unless I was really traveling. So if I'm just having fun, it's almost like the Nazaire is enough. So like about maybe 1 kilowatt, 1.5 kilowatts. I think 1 kilowatt is like a nice amount of power. The 2 kilowatts is like, I mean, it's cool because I can charge other friends off my board if I wanted. Like I've got a DC step down converter, so I can like go out for a ride in the city and then charge up a whole Evolve, and then we just keep skating or something like that.
Yes.
Or
So
I could like power a sound system off it or something like that.
speaking of charging things up, do you want to talk a little bit about batteries and potentially things happening within kind of recycling and charging things? Are you in a position to talk about that? Or?
Yeah, I guess me and Luke have been throwing around the idea of getting into the recycling battery market. So like this is a battery from a Raptor 2, and this is going through my testing process. So this has got 2,432 milliamp hour left, so out of originally 3,000, and it's been disassembled. So this is like the new oil, essentially. And this, if it was in a car, would be regarded as like end of first cycle. So batteries have a first and a second life. First life is in a high performance appliance. Second life is in a power wall. So this is ready for a power wall, but wouldn't be that great in my board because it's missing 550 amp hours. So I've been buying like broken bikes, and I brought a moped for 300 quid, an electric moped that had a 48 volt 20 amp hour battery in it. The charge port, because the discharge port was bypassing the charge connector, it wasn't working. So it was a one pound part that rendered this 300 pound battery useless. So there's a lot of instances in electric vehicles where something small will fail. So someone's remote might die and they might think the entire board's broken. Or someone crashes their Renault Zoe car and it becomes a write-off because the body's damaged. All the batteries can be used. So like, because we're in Eastgate, we're working with us all the time. It sort of got me into that. So I think, it's
cobalt is the new gold,
yeah, I mean, if we can adapt our knowledge, all the people that are so interested in this, if we start to think about how we can start like make money in that. So me and Luke have been thinking about how we can get into business with that. It's also really good for the planet, because if I threw this battery into landfill, it's very hazardous waste and it's a waste of resources. So it's a way that we can be really good to the planet. It's a way we can use alternative sources of fuel.
It's very interesting. The company that I work for, we have a battery division, and we're going to start manufacturing pretty soon new battery materials, the stuff that then goes on to batteries. And nobody is thinking about recycling, and it's going to be the opportunity in the future. And you guys are going to make money if you can come up with processes that not only reuse the batteries, but then possibly figure out a way of recycling the materials and putting them back into use. So that would be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, if we try and get everyone on electric vehicles, electric bikes, and we try and make that the way, and try and power London or the whole world on 18650 batteries or whatever the next equivalent is, and then we can work out how we can get into that industry, how we can make it more sustainable. I think it's a good future.
Have you guys been to London during the lockdown, or as we come out? Have you been to using public transports at all, or have you just been using your boards or your bike? Or
like personally, when I moved to London, I bought an electric bike. That was about a year and 8 months ago, and I've done about 1,500 miles on it, and I've adapted it and put more and more components on it, and I can take like 60 kilos of luggage with my trailer. So I haven't got on public transport for about 6 months, and I'll do a 20-mile ride across London with all my photography kit. And so I was pre-adapted before lockdown. When lockdown came in, I was like, sweet, I was already ready for this completely.
What about you,
Luke? What have you been doing?
I avoid public transport as much as possible at the best of times. During lockdown, there's no chance you're getting me down there. It's been all boards. And like I've got a car, so I've been using a car. Traffic's been quite low, but stuff's got to change. It really does. Problem is, there's the status quo are not going to give way very easily. Even people like TfL, as you've seen what they've done, they've taken a loss, and now they've whacked up the congestion charge, and we're getting so many mixed messages here. It's like stay away from public transport, but like we're going to whack up the congestion charge. We've put in the ULEZ, all of this other stuff. So it needs to be e-vehicles. But then some of you are finding out the government are not particularly clued up when it comes to anything, but that won't stop them making a whole load of decisions, and especially when they've got lobbyists tapping them on the shoulder going, well, would you like a donation? We're quite big. How about you let us do it? I mean, allegedly, obviously, this is all my own opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not mentioning any names, but I'm guessing that the e-scooter rental thing test that they're doing, it was something hacked out in a coffee break with the advice of somebody that's
very flawed.
Yeah,
it sounded like they want to put it out to large companies so that they can make a bit more money out of it, and it's like what. I don't know.
You went for the simple and easy solution.
The whole model is completely flawed. I mean, apart from anything else, you got the problem. I don't know if you've seen those photos of the bike mountains in China where they've literally just binned literal mountains of e-bikes because at some stages you couldn't get near shopping centers, you couldn't get near train stations because people are just dumping them there, which is why. Especially something with like a scooter or a personal electric vehicle that's small enough to stick under your desk at work is absolutely perfect. No one else has to touch it. It's completely clean. You haven't got to go 10 miles in the opposite direction to get one. You can maintain it yourself. It just makes loads of sense, and it's not getting left on the street.
Can I ask a question here, because you'd all be good ones to ask. Like, I feel like this grey area has got even more grey and mucky, and it's like, can I ride my Lone Star to central London right now?
You can, but you shouldn't.
Okay, but can I ride like my street board to London right now?
Yes.
But what's the difference
when you say street board, do you mean electric street board or just manual street board?
Like no, like a urethane electric board, like street.
That's a no.
No,
I guess.
It's all no. It's all no.
I wouldn't say it's all a no, but it's what the law's like, where it's like there is no definition for motor vehicle. The police can't say that's a motor vehicle technically. It's only the courts can say what is it.
We've known that for years.
Yeah,
and we've always got away with it.
That's how I get out of jail free card.
And then there's like some sort of like piss take level where it's like Baja board or Lone Star kind of, and it's like we all just don't quite. Oh well, Tramper. Everyone's riding big Trampers now, so it's like, and we're still not getting. I guess like the heat's come off us a lot with the lockdown.
The only times that I've been stopped by the police was by police officers that were curious about the boards. And they wanted to take photos and they wanted to try them. Not all police are against this. I'm assuming that only a small proportion of them are against us, and it's when they are told to do something.
They don't need to be informed.
Yeah.
Or well informed.
Definitely. And if you're riding sensibly, if not being a jerk and weaving in and around the roads and going against Mini Coopers and all of that, you're going to be fine. But no, if you're riding sensibly, I don't see any danger of you having any issues with the police. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to ride an electric scooter, you may as well buy a sticker from Lime or Bird or whoever gets the trials going.
I might get one for my Lone Star.
That's it, yeah.
yeah, that's a good idea. Uber.
Get the handle and just send that to them.
What you need is like a telescopic fake set of handlebars that you can just like whip out.
yeah.
As soon as you see any sign of trouble, it's like,
Innovation right there. Innovation right there. Guys, are we? Oh shit, we're gone out of time.
We just hit the hour.
Time. You wouldn't shut your mouth, would you?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Just very curious about Streetwing and LaCroix and what you guys been doing. Are there any questions remaining, team?
There's not really much, just a few comments. I think we've been over most of the ones that are here.
Maybe just give the stage to Luke and to Moja for some final words, if you agree.
Sure, I'll jump in quickly. If as Mo just said, Epping Forest is awesome. I mean, ironically, Moja's on one side of Epping Forest. I'm on the other side of Epping Forest. So I've been testing the P1s from the get-go there. So if anyone wants a test ride, come along to one of Moja's rides or hit me up and we can go for a ride on your own at a more convenient time. And, you know, just reach out. You got any questions, whatever, I'm always around.
Awesome. Moja?
Yeah, I'll also say, like, please come down to Epping Forest and let's ride. It is an amazing place to ride, and you know there's some good bars, and we can bring a sound system down and play. You know, we can grow a bit of a culture for Eastgate there this summer. It's a really good spot. Yeah, also say, like, I wish there was a race happening, and there's not. So there may be one happening, like a bit of a renegade underground race happening. So keep your
That's good.
ears out
There'll
for that.
be also news in Carve about some events that we're planning in the future. There'll be a race definitely, either in September or if we're allowed to, or in April next year. But definitely next year we'll come back to Paris or somewhere else in Europe.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Can't wait. I'm kind of gutted about, well, more than kind of completely gutted about Paris.
Yeah.
We should be right. We're meant to be there in a couple of days, right?
Yes. It's just when this coronavirus came up, and I was like, no.
Such a
Got an
shame. I was
event
really
to
looking forward to
organize.
that.
It's okay, and there's always next year, and we'll be there stronger and faster, and with monster boards and with tiny boards and whatever kind of boards that they come up with in Streetwing. You're on.
Hopefully not most
LaCroix as well. I want to
bring
see
it
a battle
on.
between LaCroix and Streetwing. Yeah, that'd be good.
I want to see Mo Stooge down there, so we get international showdown.
Yes, most Stooge, if you're watching, come down.
Yes.
Right, is this a wrap, Tim?
Yeah, let's call it here. Thank you very much for joining us this week, guys. Obviously, Streetwing, check them out. Moja's YouTube channel, the Qual boards. Check out news in Carve for some possible upcoming events with LaCroix. We didn't really get a chance to touch on that, but I'm sure we'll
get some merchandise as well.
Going on. And Carve merch, obviously from the Carve shop. If you want to get any of your Carve gear. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go grab some milk.